Live from Leadfeather Studios, it's the most controversial film podcast on the air. I Don't Give a Flick.
I will say, before we get started, that I've previously had issues with my internet dropping, but I've now got a hard line in my computer, so it should not.
Excellent. Neil, I'm proud of you, man. That's actually really good news. I love that.
I'm so goddamn proud of you. That's probably been the thing I've been most proud of you about this entire year.
Yeah.
I'm becoming a father or anything, but
No. That's easy. Any Joker can do that. Yeah, but hardwiring your computer. Oh, baby.
There you go.
Man.
Running an Ethernet line. Fuck. I mean, fuck.
That gets my dick hard.
That really gets me off, brother.
Oh my God. Well, okay. Now we're waking up. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of I Don't Give a Flick Halloween edition, where tonight we are going to be talking about the ghouls and ghosts, the things that go bump in the night. We're going to be talking about our favorite, the best, and scariest horror films of all time. I'm your host, Jonny Blackburn, and alongside me this week, as they always are
Gary Elmore.
And Neil Riley.
Whoa, and the world of tomorrow. For all of
you just combined Hank Hill with Futurama.
We have done so many episodes over the last 2 seasons at this point with guests that it has started to become fairly frequent that we just do episodes with the three of us. We had a lot of fun on our last one. I think the last one we did with the three of us was our sitcom episode, if I'm not mistaken. And that one actually left us all kind of feeling unfulfilled, left us kind of with a headache because it was so difficult to decide a Mount Rushmore plus one. And I mean, we debated over 2 hours on that one, and I still to this day kind of feel unfulfilled by and not super happy with the top 5 we had, but it's good for now. So we're going to try and finish it up. We're going to try to wrap it up. A Mount Rushmore plus one with the best horror movies of all time. For those of you that have tuned in during our holiday specials, we typically will focus on, especially for Halloween, we've done horror episodes on the scariest and creepiest antagonists in horror cinema history that you don't want to meet in a back alley. And then last week, we went ahead and talked about the genres and subgenres of horror. This week, we're going to get into more of a broad scope with the scariest and best overall horror movies of all time. So let's jump into it here. We're going to be dropping this about a day or two before Halloween comes up. So hopefully you guys are able to listen to it before All Hallows Eve. And it's going to be nice. COVID's starting to somewhat wind down a little bit. So I've been seeing a lot of people going out and trick-or-treating with their kids. And people are starting to go back to Halloween parties more, and they're getting back into making their costumes and things like that. So I feel like this is the first Halloween we're going to have in recent memory that's actually going to be full of enjoyment that people can enjoy to their utmost ability. So let's jump in here. I want to know, and Gary, I'm going to start with you. What makes a horror movie scary? Just in general, what do you typically look for? I know horror isn't your favorite genre out of them all, but I do know that you are a fan of a lot of the classics, and you're not an easy guy to scare. I mean, so what do you look for? What scares you the most?
Well, I think I would have to probably narrow it down to 9 things. Would be like fear of death, the dark, creepy crawly things, disfigurement. I'm just reading your list, John.
I feel like
I put for everybody.
As soon as you got the creepy crawly things, I was like, hold on a second.
No. When he said 9, I was like, that son of a bitch is going to read the entire list that I came up with. No. The list is there for you to pick a couple and then decide what's the scariest for.
I think for a scary movie, what makes it scary is sort of the fear of the unknown. And then a lot of it is
on the list, Gary.
I know.
Wow.
I've added a 10th
Wow.
item.
Okay, great. We're going rogue in tonight's episode, so please continue. Don't mind me. Fuck me, right?
Yeah, fuck me, right? I think it's sort of fear of the unknown. Like a lot of a horror movie centers around death, obviously, because that's sort of the biggest fear of the unknown that you can have in life. And then, just being unable to, like with a ghost or something, you can't really overcome them by any normal means, or like a monster, like a werewolf, like it's physically just overpowering you. So just a feeling of helplessness, or just, it could even be something as simple as just, your own sanity on the brink. Like if you look at The Shining, for example, like that's just one guy going crazy, and he's not super powered or anything supernatural.
He was just a kid.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
But he's just a normal guy, but like he goes crazy on it. And so I think that is what makes a good horror movie, is sort of that inescapable, unchangeable, unknowable fate that we all share.
Right. And I would have to agree with you that every horror movie that you watch, there's some form of, I don't want to say claustrophobia necessarily, but that same type of, it's always isolated. Doom. Yeah, very good, Neil. Exactly. Impending doom. Even if it's in a world building movie, like a zombie style kind of thing, 28 Days Later, Dawn of the Dead, when you're with people and it happens all around the world, it's isolated. You know, they don't typically jump between characters that are in different parts of the world or different parts of the country. It's typically one group of people, one city, one building, a cornfield, whatever the hell it is. And they go from there. Neil, what do you look for? What typically kind of scares you the most when it comes to horror films?
I mean, basically what Gary said, I have to agree with all that, but like, I'm not a big fan of like the jump scares or anything like that. I like a good psychological thriller horror.
Sure.
Things like that. Obviously, soundtrack, music, sounds have a lot to do with it as well. Lighting, all of that ties in.
No, yeah. I agree. Like, because when you look at like a film like a modern horror movie, most of it is jump scares, and jump scares startle you because you have a human natural proclivity when you see something change rapidly to kind of jump back in your seat. But that's not really like. To me, that's not really so much horror. Like if you look at a film like Psycho, where it's, they're not really a lot of jump scares. I mean, the shower scene, you see, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it. It's 60 years old. You see Norman Bates coming in the background through the shower curtain. So it's not really like a jump scare, like he pops out, but it's terrifying because of that. Or if you look at, Jonny, you like what's that guy's name?
James
Neil
Wan.
Patrick Harris.
James Wan.
Yeah.
Neil Patrick Harris. I'm sorry, I got it. How the hell did you get Neil Patrick Harris and James Wan confused?
Because I was thinking of the movie Gone Girl, because that's like really scary to like be in a bed with a woman and like she cut your dick off.
Yeah.
Although I think she cut his throat.
That was a scary fucking movie, by the way. We'll get to that in a sec. But keep going. Yes, James Wan is who I always know.
He doesn't do a lot of jump scares, and especially his older movies. Like it's sort of like a slow pan, and then you see something in the background.
Right.
I think as time has gone on, he's become more commercial and started getting into the jump scares more. But like his earlier work, like The Conjuring, was much more like, and those are the terrifying moments to me when you're just like you see something in the background, like.
Moving slowly.
The movie 3 Men and a Baby. There's this one shot.
Hard turn left from horror to 3 Men and a Baby.
I thought we were talking about scariest comedies of all time. All right, my bad.
But like there's this one panning shot where he's walking with his mother across the room, and like you see this like kid just standing by the window, and it's not a horror movie, but you're like, what the hell is that? It turned like
it's really just Tom Selleck's mustache.
Yeah. I mean, like, because people were like, what is that? But it turned out, I think, to be the directors or one of the producers' kids that just got on set, and he heard they were filming, so he just stood there as quietly as he could not to be seen. But it made it through editing, and like, people were like, is this a ghost of a kid? So like that's, even though that was like a lighthearted comedy for the most part, that was like kind of not horrific, but it was kind of a terrifying moment in the movie.
It certainly is, especially if you're not expecting it. And we go back to the list. Fear of the unknown, fear of the unexpected, or fear of the unusual was the one I had on the list, but all kind of encompassed in the same thing. I want to go back to something that you said really quick. And I know that we have panned directors, horror directors, obviously, over the last 2 seasons, off and on, for doing jump scares or relying on jump scares to actually scare us instead of going back to the Alfred Hitchcock, James Wan school of thinking, build the suspense slowly with tiny not Easter eggs, but tiny hints of things of impending doom to come, attempting to foreshadow the impending doom, and using that through the soundtrack or with Foley, just anything to do with audio. But if we look at some of the classics of horror, I was thinking about this actually today. If you we can all agree, right? Halloween, Friday the 13th, The Thing, maybe not The Thing, Nightmare on Elm Street, any of these slasher films, Scream, they really do rely heavily on jump scares. There are really good, especially John Carpenter, very, very gifted at doing the same thing James Wan and Alfred Hitchcock did, building the suspense slowly with misdirecting shots, showing you one thing, but then the thing you're supposed to be looking at is in the corner, dimly lit. Or the thing you should be looking at is the small object on the shelf instead of the big object in front of your eye.
Because that's I was gonna say, like, because that's like terrifying when you're like watching a shot and you're like up front of like two people talking, and like that's the distraction, and then you see something in the background that's like just a shadowy figure looking at you. So, like, fuck.
Did you exactly? So did you guys end up watching the movies that made us? You've seen that series, right, on Netflix?
I've seen it on there. I haven't started it yet.
Oh God, Neil, you have to watch it.
You love the Ghostbusters. I
know.
You'd love the Ghostbusters, Home Alone, Die Hard is really awesome. Okay, so they just did. I'm not going to do this. Season 3 just came out a couple weeks ago. And Gary, I don't know. I talked with you about this on our episode last week when Ian, Bree, and Tony were on. Episode 3 is a Halloween season. Okay. And they talk about aliens, talk about Aliens, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and Friday the 13th. And they talk about Halloween, which kind of started the slasher films in general back when it was made in the 70s. And the one shot that they said is the most iconic, or one of the most iconic in all of horror films and slasher films in particular, which I would completely agree with, is the scene where Jamie Lee Curtis has the baseball bat and she's looking down the stairs, and you see the moonlight coming into the hallway, and you see her pretty well lit up, but behind her is this open door, and it's just very ominous looking because it's pitch black inside the room, and you can't even make out a figure. But then slowly they took an ellipsoidal light and they turned up the temperature on it and made it a little bright by like 15-20%, and you can barely make out the face of Michael Myers standing right behind her. And I haven't seen the first Halloween in probably about 3 or 4 years. But when they showed me that one scene, and talked about it for a solid minute or so, I just, the goosebumps all over, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, because I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that scene completely. And now just seeing it here, like it's masterful how they can make that happen. Anyways, though, outside of what we talked about, jump scares, I feel, are actually pretty pivotal to still having horror movies be successful and still scaring us. Even though I talk about how masterful James Wan and John Carpenter and Alfred Hitchcock always were with building the suspense and then misdirecting you and then getting you when you least expected it, the jump scares are still in all of their movies. Now, they don't rely on them as heavily as a Scream or a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of thing. They don't rely on it as heavily, but they are still there. Insidious, which is one of my favorite horrors of all time. A giant one is where, Neil, I don't know if you've seen Insidious, but Gary, I know that I made you watch it a while back. And there's that one scene where the grandmother is talking about seeing the shape of the demon in the room next to the kid. And he's pointing at the kid who's in the coma. And then out of nowhere, it's a quick shot when she's talking about the demon to Patrick Wilson, but you see the red demon behind him and you don't see it coming like at any point, but that's a jump scare. They built up to it masterfully, but it was still a jump scare. So I don't like to backtrack on what I've said in the past, but I kind of thinking about it now, it is imperative in a smaller dosage to have that for a horror film, I think.
Right. Well, I mean, like what I think it is like they build up to that, like
they do build up to it, but it's still a jump scare.
But I mean, like in the movie The Sixth Sense, when Haley Joel Osment is hiding under that little tent and he's got that flashlight, and like he starts like breathing heavily and then like the girl that was killed just appears right next to him, like. That's I guess a jump scare because like it's right there.
Right.
But like I think the problem is movies directors have become too reliant on them, and they're cheap ones now. I mean, what was that movie? The Gift. Do you remember that one?
Sure. Yeah, with Jason Bateman and oh darn, I can't remember the other dude. I can't remember his name.
The guy with the Yeah.
And yeah, so, Joel Edgerton.
Yeah. But like there's this scene in it, I remember it because like they have the violins going and it's like a shot of like this glass door to the outside. Mm-hmm. And like it's like this camera's slowly panning in, so you're expecting a jump scare. Mm-hmm. And then they just don't do one because like I think that movie came out in 2016 or something, but it had been so overplayed by that point that now you've got to kind of play on people's expectations of that. Right. Because, there's usually very little like build up to it. It's just kind of like pops out there and like your natural inclination is to be startled. Like, I don't know if you've ever gotten an email that's like, hey, watch this video, turn up the volume a lot so you can hear it. Yeah, sure. And then at the end, like, something screams. But like I hate those.
Yeah, they're stupid.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. So are you guys scared? Let me ask you a question. It's not on the list, but we can answer pretty freely on this one. I think it's a quick thinking one. Are you more scared with movies, I don't know, pre-2000 or post-2000? No. With horror movies, like,
do you feel like they're scarier pre-2000 or post-2000?
Post-2000, yeah. It doesn't mean are they better. I'm just asking. Do you think they've gotten better at scaring us over the last 20 years, or were they better before 2000?
I don't know. That's tough to say because, like, if you look at like A Nightmare on Elm Street, that's a pretty scary movie, I think. And
is it?
Yeah, I
watched it like last week with my sister. She had never seen it, and I hadn't seen it in a long time. And it was hilarious. I was laughing my ass off. I thought the special effects and the makeup team and the prosthetics, no CGI. It was done very well, but it didn't scare me. It made me laugh, But I'm 33, so I mean,
and I mean, like it's it's not a news story to you, so I think it's harder to like if you watched The Conjuring, 15 times in a row, it wouldn't be as scary to you.
The Conjuring still scares me. I'm not going to lie. It still does. But I get what you're saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I do agree. But anyways, I digress.
My point on that was, I guess, like, when you get later into the Nightmare on Elm Street series and it's like Nightmare on Elm Street 5, it starts to get a little campy. Right. And so a lot of the movies after 2000 were kind of continuations of those movies, so they were campy. But you also had a lot of really good, like, like The Conjuring that were like, or Pan's Labyrinth, the movies that were like new. So I think it's more the freshness of the movie. Like, is that what makes it scary? Because when it's something that's been done many, many times, like Scream, you kind of know how that's going to play out. And Scream, I guess, isn't a good example because it kind of, I think, realizes, even from the beginning, it was kind of hokey.
Yeah, and they did that on purpose. I mean, when Wes Craven wrote that, he meant for it to be pretty much a spoof,
He kills Drew Barrymore off in the first 2 minutes. Yeah,
exactly. Probably your top actress. Okay, it's been 30 years at this point, almost. God, 26, whatever. I think 96 is when the first one came out. I'm gonna answer that question really quick. I honestly, even though I find most horror films pre-2000 to be better movies and I have a more enjoyable time watching them, I think that in the last 20 years they've gotten a lot better at scaring us. It's not necessarily the jump scares, it's because, and if you look back at it, my favorite horror director, James Wan, is post-2000. It's not just him. I look at other movies like The Descent and The Babadook and Sinister and a lot of things from Blumhouse and like fucking Hereditary. Like I didn't like that movie, but it scared the shit out of me. Like, it was gross, and it did a good job of building that suspense and hitting me with stuff that I didn't see coming. Now, the story is what I have a problem with, and I'll get into that later. I don't want to ramble too much. I know I always do. But there's a lot to talk about tonight, so I'm going to cut it. But I'd say post-2000. Like, I have more enjoyable times, nostalgia factor with, 90s, 80s, 70s horror films. But the movies post-2000, those are the ones that I still like. If I watch, I don't watch by myself. I'll watch with 1 or 2 other people.
And I wonder if part of that is because like the technology advanced so much, because when you're like lugging around an 800-pound camera, you can't get the same kind of tight, confined shots that you could when you've got like a small little, like, 5-pound camera, and as you said earlier, that claustrophobia, that claustrophobic feeling is one of the elements of, what makes a horror film.
I don't know if you can. I see what you're. Are you kind of getting at that over the evolution of time because of technology, because of people being able to write new scripts based off of the old scripts, the first ones to come? It's just naturally gotten better with the progression of things, just because.
No, I'm saying like with like the camera, like you can get a tighter kind of shot, like in a more enclosed environment than you could with
shoulder mounted and
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I see where you're coming from. I guess the camera work certainly plays a large portion of it. I just think that the stories that people are writing now, they're a lot more morbid. They're a lot darker. They're much more sinister.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like that there's much more we can do right now, which is weird to think about because dramas, I honestly think the best dramas that my top 10, the majority of them are from the 90s, 80s, 70s. Even though we can talk about more things now and we can go more radical and we can go a lot deeper into the human psyche nowadays than we could 3 decades ago, I still feel like dramas were better before 2000, but I feel like the stories have gotten better post 2000 for horror. It's a weird juxtaposition, honestly. Neil, what do you think? What pre or post 2000?
You think the stories for horror have gotten better post 2000?
I do. I really do.
I mean, I disagree. I feel like the pre-2000 stories were more original and they were more supernatural, paranormal, things like The Exorcist, along that line. And I think post 2000 it became more of just slashers and gore and let's see how many college kids we can kill in the campsite.
Yeah, as many teenage kids having sex. Fair enough to that point.
I think that kind of brings us back to our ultimate point. Like, it is like a horror movie something that's like a slow burn, like I see this figure in the background getting closer, or is it something like pops out and starts stabbing? And I think horror encompasses both of those kind of categories.
Oh, absolutely.
I prefer the more Alfred Hitchcock style that's like a slower build up.
Right. I really do think though that to counter Neil, to counter your point, I really do think that the best horror movies that I'm kind of thinking about in my head, the ones that scare me the most, the stories that I find to be very original, a lot of those get lost in the shuffle. And I think I completely agree with your train of thought, and I see where you're coming from. And honestly, until I really thought about this over the last couple of weeks, just watching so many films, like old ones with my sister, just showing her kind of what I grew up with, thinking about it, post 2000, the market's just saturated. Horror was fucking everywhere, and it still is because it's cheap to make. We always talk about Jason Blum and Blumhouse, and look how much money they've made with just letting directors go to town on their horror movies, having completely free artistic creation, and they have like a $200,000 budget on the film. A lot of these films that were made pre-2000, a lot of these horror movies, I mean, 200,000 might have been the budget in the 80s, but for inflation, that's, I don't know, Gary, how much is that today?
Well, it goes up another 6% every month. So,
so an additional couple 100,000 on top of that. I guess my point is there were less horror movies pre-2000 to really pick from and dissect. And there's so much more post-2000 that it seems like the only thing coming out post-2000 are slashers with jump scares. But if I think about the greatest slashers of all times and my favorite, most entertaining horror movies, the pre-2000 ones are all slashers. Every single one of them, with the exception of maybe Psycho and what's the one with Jimmy Stewart, the Alfred Hitchcock one where he's in the wheelchair? Gary? Rear Window. I guess The Exorcist. I always kind of thought The Exorcist was a little overrated. But all of my other favorite ones, The Thing, the Scream franchise, the other ones I mentioned with Halloween, Friday the 13th, all those are all slashers. They're all jump scares. And I don't know. I guess I didn't really start thinking about it until a couple weeks ago. And I've been going through lists, and I was building my own list today. And I was just looking at my favorite post-2000 horror movies and my favorite pre-2000 horror movies. And the post-2000 horror movies on my list, my favorite ones, are not slasher jump scares. All of the pre-2000s are. I think we kind of have that mindset because there's so many slashers, because there's so many crappy horror movies that have come out over the last 20 years. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I've seen so many at this point in my life. I love the horror genre that maybe I'm just jaded from those. Anywho, okay. Well, glad to see that we don't have to have a panel of 5 people to have a disagreement on which decade or which era we think is the better one.
We don't have to have a bunch of people to start yelling at each other.
Exactly.
God damn it, Johnny!
Fuck! It's the Always Sunny cast.
You're gonna get us exploited.
Oh my god. So I was gonna have to say honestly that I think we're all going to agree. What makes a horror movie the most scary to us is just a fear of the unknown, a fear of death. Most people, I'd say, 85 to 90% of horror movies have at least 1 to 2 people die in them.
100%.
I mean, maybe 100%. I feel like I've seen a couple where nobody has died, like from the monster in the movie.
It wouldn't be not only have they died, but was the monster not trying to kill them?
Right. And that's a fear of the unknown, though. I don't know if that, I guess still fear of death, too. It's goddamn, we're always crossing. Oh my God.
Okay. Paranormal romance. Let's go.
Son of a bitch. The dark is a huge one. Creepy crawly things. I don't care really. What else do we have on this list? We talked about, Neil talked about the soundtrack and the audio, spooky music, creating suspense. That's a big one. Lightning and thunder. There are tons of horror movies that don't have that. The dark is probably my biggest one if I was to look at that list. And I talked about it with that Halloween reference already, because we talk about it. Jacob Johnson, who's a normal contributor to our podcast, always talks about your largest adversary when it comes to fear is just your own imagination. And that's what the dark allows you to do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of horror movies, I say, use darkness almost as another character, like, because you kind of develop your own sense of what's going on, but it's always going to be misdirected.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump in. I'm excited to hear about y'all's top 5 list. Honestly, Neil, I don't know if I've ever asked you, Gary. I know that you're not the biggest fan of horror. I mean, you stated that in our last episode. But Neil, what about you? I mean, compare for all of the genres: drama, comedy, action, horror. Where does horror kind of rank on there for you?
Horror is kind of on the lower end for me. It's nothing that I typically go out of my way to watch. It's usually around this time of year that if I watch a horror, it's now, unless something comes out and people are like, "Oh God, you got to go see it." But no, horror is not my go-to.
Okay, all right. So let's jump in. We're gonna do really quick what we normally do when it's just the 3 of us. We're gonna give our top 5 personal lists. Okay, and then from there we'll build a Mount Rushmore +1, see if we can agree on it. I'm excited for this because horror is one of my favorite genres. So let's jump in. Neil, let's let you start. We'll let you go ahead and go first. Just best horror movie of all time. Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. We have to. Do we need to do kind of an equation of what we're looking for to figure out what the formula is for best horror film? Obviously, being scary. Do we want to keep it the same as just what a standard movie would be based off of, like rating the best film of all time, like good script, solid production value, anything else? What else do we need in there?
Sometimes you don't even need that for a good horror movie. Sometimes having
true, almost
like, I don't want to say like a B-rated movie, but a lower budget can sometimes make it a better movie, like a better horror movie overall. Right. So, I mean, I don't know if there's really easy way to kind of classify rating the horror movies. It might just be, we want, what overall appeals to us as audience members.
Okay. Well, let's just jump into it then. Neil, let's start with you, man. What drops into your top 5 list?
Are we starting at the bottom?
Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a particular order. You can just give out your 5 in no ranking order.
All right. Well, for me, my top 5 would include
just one.
Would start with Paranormal Activity.
Okay. Interesting. Found footage. Interesting. Are you a fan of the found footage subgenre, like Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity, that kind of stuff?
Not necessarily, but I was a fan of how Paranormal Activity was done and how well it was done.
Yeah, I mean, I think their budget was under 50,000. Yeah, I remember Jason Blum had talked about that was the movie that gave him the popularity, notoriety, and financing finally to create Blumhouse. Like that was their first movie. So God, that's pretty fucking cool. Okay, I would not have expected you to say that, but that I do remember that scaring the shit out of me when I saw it in theaters. All right, right on. Right. So Gary, how about you? What's in your top 5?
The Blair Witch Project, 1999.
Are you
found footage? All right.
Yeah.
Blair Witch. I thought you hated the Blair Witch Project.
When it came out, it was sort of one of the first sort of found footage ones. And I found that movie very scary at the turn of the millennium.
Oh, when you were a teenager. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
As did Tom.
So what about nowadays, though? That would still be in your top 5?
Well, again, like so much time has passed and I'm so aware of the story, like it's hard to be scared of it anymore because I know what's coming next. And so it's, it's like a ride, so well, like the turns and everything, like they're not going to shock you. So it doesn't have nearly the same appeal that it once did.
Okay.
But when I first saw it, I remember feeling this is a very scary movie.
Okay. All right. Okay. I was not expecting either of those, Gary, especially with Blair Witch Project. I hadn't seen it until I was 25, I think, and everybody had built it up. And then Gary and I had watched it, and I said, "Okay, well, this sucks. Why is everybody talking about it?" And Gary was explaining to me how huge it was, like what a great marketing job they did at the turn of the century or the turn of the millennium. Well, I guess both. and then Gary seen it that second time. He's like, "Well, it definitely wasn't as scary as when I was a kid, but it was still a trailblazer for found footage films." And I would have to agree for sure. I would not expected either of those from you guys, so I'm a little floored, but I respect the decisions.
And a little disappointed.
I am a little disappointed. With yours, I'm disappointed. Neil's not so much. Paranormal Activity, I really liked. The first one, I'm disappointed in you, Gary. I feel like you should take some time off, reflect on your decisions of life.
Think about how you failed Jonny.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I disapprove. I'm gonna have to go with Stanley Kubrick's classic, The Shining. Absolutely, Shining for horror films is easily my number 1 or number 2. I'm not going in any particular order, but that's the one that just popped up, and I'm sure one of you is going to try to take it at some point, and I'm not going to let that happen because I want to take credit for it. So,
for The Shining, okay. I
directed The Shining. Said The Shining, yeah.
No, so for those of you that are familiar with Stanley Kubrick, I've always found The Shining to be his masterpiece. I found that to be his best one, and I actually got to rewatch that again. That was one of the movies I introduced my sister to the other day. That's one kind of on the line of they're like, oh, it's psychological thriller more than horror. Yeah, true. But there's still plenty of horror moments, even to this day, after seeing it so many times and then watching it again at the age of 33, there were still moments that I cringed or I jumped a little bit. It's only about 2 or 3 moments. But between the performances of Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson, and I don't remember the name of the kid, Danny, how do you know that?
That's the character's name.
That's the character's name. Okay, all right. I was like, how do you know the actor's name? That is impressive.
Red Rom.
That is impressive. It's one of the most quoted movies of all time. Also, if you think about it, right? Red Rum, here's Johnny, honey, I'm home. Any of those. It talks about what Gary was mentioning earlier. The single thing that we fear the most is our own mind, is isolation. And these people are up in the mountains in this albeit this giant mansion or hotel. They're still by themselves. There's only 3 of them, and there's not much to do. And they're up there for like 6 months, and it's just absolutely terrifying to think about it. It's literally one man's story of him going insane, and I'm gonna ruin it. He attempts to murder his entire family. And if you want to know more, just watch it, because it's just in general a fantastic film.
And just to say, it is Danny Lloyd is the child's name.
Danny Lloyd.
The character is Danny Torrance, played by Danny Lloyd.
Oh, very good, Neil. Very good.
Interesting. Okay.
And there is also a great YouTube video that makes The Shining cut into a romance, a rom-com, and I highly recommend watching that.
Just like the one that cut Mary Poppins into a horror?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think that was the same people that did that.
I'm sure it was.
Oh, I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's fantastic. I feel like you may have shown me that, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll switch it up a little. Gary, give us another one on your top 5.
Another one on my top 5. I did have The Shining, so you took that from me. So
Boom.
good
As did
job.
I. So
Pick another one.
Yeah.
Haha, bitches, get another one.
Another one I have is An American Werewolf in London, which is a 1981 classic. It's about
choice.
two American kids from, I think, Jersey,
Joyzy?
who encounter a werewolf on the English moors, and one of the friends is killed, the other one is turned into a werewolf, and just how his rampage concludes through London. It has probably one of the, if not the best transformation scenes in any movie ever. I mean, I know nowadays you've got
The Howling is pretty good too. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
Yeah, but I mean, like nowadays you've got a lot of CGI that can do everything, but this was like all real stuff that was like him turning into the werewolf, and it was just great.
Yeah, brilliant work done. All right. You redeemed yourself a little bit, Gary, from that first
well done.
pick. That's a good pick.
You redeemed
that's a good
yourself
pick.
in the eyes of Johnny Blackburn.
Okay,
and
wonderful.
That's all that matters, really. I mean, now your life is complete. You have my approval. No, that's a fantastic one. Honestly, can you guys really think outside of those two, outside of The Howling and American Werewolf in London, are there any other Gary werewolf or Lycan films? Honestly, like scary, like actual good ones. I can't think of any.
I mean, again, it goes. Did you say Lycan? So also like vampires?
Lycan is another name for a werewolf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I kind of goes back to like, you know, you had the Werewolf Man from
Wolfman.
the 30s. Yeah, the Wolfman. Thank you.
I mean,
Teen Wolf was also scary, but
Yeah.
for different reasons.
Michael J.
like,
Fox. Come on. Let's
What was the Stephen King one? The Silver Bullet. Did you ever see that one? The kid that
sounds
was in a
familiar.
wheelchair. It was like in the early 90s.
I've heard of
I think
it.
Gary Busey was in it.
What?
I can't
Okay.
remember.
Really?
But like that was kind of scary. Like, you know, there's and then like the Blade movies had werewolves in it, and those were kind of
No,
scary.
actually, the Blade movies did not have werewolves in it. I think you're thinking of
No,
Underworld.
it's
Underworld is what
Underworld
you're
I'm
thinking
thinking
of.
of.
Yep. Yeah. And Underworld are where the Lycans came from.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the name was already around, but that was what made them popular.
They've been called lycanthropes in Dungeons and Dragons since the 70s, Johnny. Get it right.
Get it right. Did you know that Guillermo del Toro directed Blade 2?
Did you know that
Random fact.
Benicio del Toro is not related to Guillermo del Toro?
I did know that. It's a very popular Latino last name.
Yes.
So.
It means of the bull, I believe.
Wow. Cool. All right. Well, we just have nothing but interesting facts on I Don't Give a Flick, especially on our holiday editions. Neil, let's go ahead and go to you. What would be your second one to throw on your list?
Second one is going to be one we already talked about a little bit earlier, but 28 Days Later. When that one came out, it was so good. It was the first time I had seen like an infected human movie that I thought was done well, and it scared the shit out of me the entire time.
Who doesn't love Danny Boyle? Honestly,
Is that the one where the drop of blood falls in the guy's
yes,
eye?
it is a
Brendan
great
Gleeson.
scene.
Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson's eye. Yep. God. Honestly, zombie movies had their time, man. They had their time in the sun. They had their time to shine. A good 10-year run probably was a little longer than it should have been. But 28 Days Later is one of the only ones that I have to agree, like, still holds up to this day. Between that and the remake, Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead. I mean, Night of the Living Dead, like George A. Romero's original ones too. Like those, I'd say, are the few like zombie horror movies that still hold up to this day. I would still consider like classics. Yeah, so that's a really good pick. For mine, it's a tough one because I don't want to keep stealing people's. I'm not gonna steal anybody's. I might steal. This might be someone. Anyways, I'll just go for it. Obviously, I already talked about it earlier, but The Conjuring. The Conjuring is absolutely on my top 5. I'll go to bed with James 1 any day. I'll it just.
Do you mean go to bat for?
No, go to bed. Go to bed with him, Gary. Okay?
All right.
I will do that, man. Okay, I'm not even gay.
Okay,
but I will do that, man. Okay.
We are a very inclusive and open show.
We are. If you have any questions about my life, feel free to ask. Okay. If you have any questions about Gary's life,
go to bed with you.
Yeah, I'll go to bed with you. Anybody who calls, I don't care where you're from, who you are, doesn't matter. Okay. No, but with The Conjuring, I've talked before about the type, at least in that episode that we talked about, the antagonist from horror films you'd least like to face. The ones that I'd least like to face and that are the scariest to me are demons. Demons and the supernatural, anything that can demonically possess you and control you from the inside, make you do things you don't want to do, basically make you into a slave. Essentially, what it is.
That's very interesting that you don't like The Exorcist, then, because that's what that whole movie's about.
It's not that. It's that I think that I appreciated it for what it was. It was like you talked about with Blair Witch. It was a trailblazer. I think there are other exorcism films that do it much better than The Exorcist. Not much better, just better in general. And I think when I say overrated for the Exorcist, when I say overrated, I mean that I wouldn't put it on my top 5 best horror films of all time. A lot of times when they make we talk about looking at these lists that we've been checking out, for the last, like today, whatever. Exorcist is always either number 1 or number 3 or number 4 or 7 or 9. It's somewhere in that top 10 range. And I think it's a little overblown because it's a classic. I don't think a lot of the things they did in The Exorcist hold up today. I think a lot of things the slashers pre-2000 still hold up today, but I don't think The Exorcist did. Go ahead. What were you saying?
When was the last time you watched that movie?
About 6 years ago.
Okay.
It hasn't. I haven't seen it in the last year, but I still remember the majority of it.
I know, it's just because it's just such a well done movie.
It is a well done movie. I don't think it's one of the greatest to ever be made. It's a trailblazer, and I appreciate it for just like Poltergeist. I don't think Poltergeist is one of the greatest horrors to ever be made. I do enjoy both of those movies, but we're talking about the cream of the crop. If I had to bet my life on 5, maybe even 10 films, they'd both be on the outside looking in, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That's just me. Everybody's different for it. I would certainly say The Conjuring for me is up there. I as much as I think the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren, were full of crap, and their sightings that they had, and Lorraine being a medium and stuff, I certainly thought it was a circus. It was an absolute circus, and I thought there's no evidence to back up any of their stories or any of their beliefs, or anything that they witnessed or went through. But suspending belief, the story behind them and how they made this Conjuring universe was perfectly told in James Wan's original adaptation of the first Conjuring movie. One of the not only scariest films that I've ever seen. I talked in last week's episode about Hide and Clap. If you don't know what it is at this point, I've talked about it ad nauseum, so I'm not going to bore anybody else with the exact details of it. But go see the movie if you haven't watched it. It's very well done. I love it when they combine horror and science and religion all into the same encompassing movie. I love it when they try to bring all three together. I don't know why. I just do. And they try to do that in this. They give you background and origin stories on everybody. They make everybody relatable. The dialogue is well done. Production value is super high. Excellent cinematography. Anyways, so Conjuring is on my list. Neil, let's jump back to you.
All right. Well, for me, I'm gonna take it way back to 1984, and I'm gonna say Children of the Corn.
Really?
Yeah. Gary, was that on your list?
Yes. You stole my idea, Neil.
Finally.
Neil for the win.
For the win.
All right. So give it to us. Why, Neil?
I mean, that movie, I didn't watch it until I was a little older, but it was very well done. As written by Stephen King, about I think it's like a cult of children that kill anyone that's over the age of 18. I just thought it scared the shit out of me, and it always, whenever you just see like a group of kids just staring at you, like, oh shit, Children of the Corn.
Perfect. Love it, man. Love it. I'm gonna go ahead. We're gonna make Gary go last because I'm still mad at him for the Blair Witch Project pick. So I'm going to go ahead and throw everybody's favorite in there. Psycho. Psycho, which is a Alfred Hitchcock classic. No, I mean you want to talk about one of the first. You want to talk about the first well done psychological thriller. You go look at Psycho. Originally Alfred Hitchcock actually in that scene, in the infamous shower scene where he's about to stab Jamie Lee Curtis's mother. He comes up, we see the knife. Alfred Hitchcock didn't want music in that. He originally just wanted it to be silent. Okay, so whoever was doing, I don't remember the name of the composer who was in charge of the soundtrack, but
John Williams.
No. God damn it, son of a bitch, John Williams. How old is that guy? No, whoever it was, during the screening that they had, the composer did come in through post, and he did add the music to it without Alfred Hitchcock's previous knowledge. And when Hitchcock heard it, he goes, "All right, I was wrong." Threw his hands up in the air, and I don't know if he gave a round of applause or something, but he did allow it to stay in. And now it's one of the most iconic horror scenes, if not one of the most iconic scenes in cinema history.
Absolutely. Yeah,
100%. So I will throw Psycho in there, even though Psycho's not necessarily one that I'll watch every Halloween. It's typically one I'll see once every 5 to 7 years kind of thing. But it's just a classic. It's just, I have to respect it. And I think we can all agree on that one.
And if you want to talk about, trailblazing movies that broke boundaries, I mean, Psycho was, I don't know how it got past the censors in 1960.
God.
You see her like pretty much naked. I mean, you
almost
don't see any, like, well, you like when she's in the shower scene, you see like the stomach, like you don't see the breasts or anything below that, but like she gets stabbed in the stomach. And like that shot where the knife was going into her abdomen, like that was a big deal. Yeah,
no, absolutely, 100%. So Gary, what falls in? So far, Neil has Paranormal Activity, 28 Days Later, and Children of the Corn. I've got The Shining, The Conjuring, and Psycho. You've got Blair Witch Project and An American Werewolf in London. What's number 3?
Yeah, you guys took a lot of good ones. Although I am going to throw up 1979's classic movie Alien.
Nice.
Very well done.
That counts. Hell yeah, that counts.
More so than Aliens, which
really
I like Aliens 2 better.
Okay.
But I think Alien is the better horror movie because I think Aliens is more of an I feel like it's kind of more Predator, like kind of actiony.
Yes,
sci-fi action.
Yeah, whereas Alien is like it's because it's this group of miners, not children, but like they dig into rocks. Miners, not miners.
A group of Utes.
Utes. Who are on this spaceship, and they've got like this alien creature. And like it kind of sprouts to life and like starts killing them all, and they've got to like survive on this like dark, murky, like rickety, just crappy sort of corporate mining ship like in the middle of space. So that's totally like just that sort of claustrophobic feeling because you can't leave. You have to stay on the ship and try and survive. And it was so well done. Like the alien is such a great like demonic kind of creature because it's like shiny and like slimy and like it doesn't look human at all. So it's just really this like kind of horrific vision like you'd see in a like a Dante picture or a Hieronymus Bosch painting.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. So for mine, I'm gonna go ahead and oh god, this is so difficult for me because I really thought somebody was gonna take one of my other ones, and so I've got 2 on here, and I'm gonna be disrespectful to James Wan, unfortunately. For me, I'm gonna say it's a tight one for me, real tight, but The Thing is gonna have to be my number 4, or at least on my top 5 there. I can't think of first off, I can't think of a John Carpenter movie that's better at building the suspense. And you talk about how The Shining and Kubrick was so masterful at creating confusion and that sense of isolation and dread. Talk about doing that with a group of 15 people. Granted, you're in the middle of whatever Antarctica or wherever the hell they were, but at no point in the movie, not one point, by the end of the film, do we know where or who the thing is? Did they kill it at the end? Does it happen to be Kurt Russell's character or Keith David's character? We don't know. And Carpenter has just built his career on creating suspense and doubt in our minds on what we thought we knew about the movie. And I think The Thing perfectly encompasses all of his films. As big of a fan of the Halloween franchise as I am, I think The Thing is better than any of them, even the first one, which I really, really love. I'd have to go with The Thing for sure.
We hope that you are enjoying this rousing episode of Let Feather Productions' I Don't Give a Flick. To help us bring you more of the content that you love, please consider following us on Patreon at patreon.com/letfeather. There are 3 tiers to choose from, with special and exclusive merchandise in our VIP level. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.
Okay. Gary, what comes in at 4, or what's your fourth one you want to throw in?
I'm going to put out The Silence of the Lambs. To me,
yeah, psych thriller, sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not like a horror film in the sense of like there's like a creature or a monster coming after you.
Sure.
But it is, if you consider like humanity like a creature and a monster, and you've got just like this great performance by Anthony Hopkins,
right,
and Jodie Foster, and then like it's just shot so well and so like creepily, because like his basement is all Buffalo Bill's basement is just all like murky and earthen, and it's so much, you know, like it just evokes that imagery of like dirt and filth and like, you know, a Golgotha pit or something to that effect. And then like the scene when at the very end when she's trying to go in and like they turn the lights off and he's like just like almost touching her face in the darkness, like that's just such a great image to me. Like it really sticks with me.
Did you know that when I was reading up on this, Jodie Foster had said in multiple interviews that she actually didn't speak to Anthony Hopkins finally, like an actual conversation, until the final day of shooting, because she was so fucking scared of him on set. If you look back at every one of their scenes, they're never actually in one of the pictures together. It's a stand-in or she's talking directly to the camera. I just thought that was just very interesting. So
interesting.
Yeah. Neil, what about you? What falls in for your fourth one?
So it's going to be probably a little unorthodox, but I really like, as far as horror thriller goes, I like Misery. Rob Reiner, 1990.
Yeah. James Caan and Kathy Bates. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I like it. It is kind of an isolationist film where, you know, he's being held captive by, you know, Kathy Bates, and she basically tortures him to get what she wants.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good.
So like marriage. Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Gary, you've made that joke so many times.
And it's still funny.
I'm disappointed in you, Gary. More disappointed than I was when you picked the Blair Witch Project as your first.
Dang
it. Gary, let's jump over to you to round out your personal top 5.
Okay. And I think I brought this one up last time, but it's The Evil Dead from 1981.
Yeah, baby. I knew you were going to throw that in. I was like, when is Gary going to say The Evil Dead?
Yeah,
love Sam Raimi.
I knew he was going to say that one for the end.
I mean, because I also had like Nightmare on Elm Street, which I really, really love, and then I also had like The Invisible Man from 2020.
Oh my God, that was. Oh.
But like The Evil Dead is such a classic. You know, again,
it's like,
it's Bruce Campbell.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
it's low budget, but they make it work because the house is just falling apart in the woods, and like the Necronomicon is, you know, just this kind of cheap prop, but they made it as good as they could, and like they do very interesting things with the camera angles, because they don't have a nice big you know, camera to make it look really nice. Is basically just a little handheld camcorder that you know, Sam Raimi had, and like it really nails the tone it was going for, I think.
You really just like watching the girl get raped by the woods, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, number one scene.
Dude, that was just I hadn't actually, that was one of the movies I've watched with my sister, and honestly I forgot about that scene, and so we're just sitting there on Zoom watching it, and she's like, what's happening? And is that root, what the hell is that root doing, that tree limb, is that? And I'm like, yep. She's like, is it going up into her? Yep. All right, this is uncomfortable as hell. So yeah, that was not my favorite scene, but Evil Dead, it was definitely on my outside looking in. Neil, what rounds out your top 5?
Another kind of unorthodox one, but if you've seen it, you know, and it's probably one of my all-time favorite movies, Event Horizon.
Yeah.
Ooh,
okay.
That's such a powerful performance by Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill. Basically, hell in a starship. It's great.
You know, everybody told me, maybe it was my fault for seeing Event Horizon for the first time when I was like 26 or 27. Everybody had told me how scary it was, and I watched it, and it was a good movie. But even when he rips his eyes out and he's just like, it's just these big holes in his face, it was creepy. But I don't know.
To me, the scariest part of that was when they're back on their ship, and Jason Isaac's like, I decoded the rest of the message, and he's like, the message is like, "Liberate tutte me ex infernus."
Oh yeah, that's right.
Save yourself from hell. It's just like that's like, ooh, creepy part.
It was a creepy movie. Yeah, it was a creepy movie. I don't know. I never got the horror aspect of it. Maybe
well, it's not that movie's fault. You were so fucking old when you saw it. Okay,
that's
Sorry,
true.
Johnny,
Hey,
you lost some of my respect, though. That's okay.
Neil.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
all
come
of
on,
it,
man.
All of it.
Neil, I can't live without your respect. I guess I'm just gonna have to end it.
I mean, it'd be doing everybody a favor, so.
I'm just wasting oxygen right now. So my to round out my top 5, it's such a tough one. Oh god, dude, especially put me on this. Halloween. I can't do it to James Wan. I really can't. I was gonna go 2 John Carpenters to 1 James Wan.
You already put a Conjuring up.
Yeah, I did, but I got to put a second James Wan up. I love the first Halloween movie so much. I really do. It even to this day, that is one of the few slasher films that gets me. Scream is right there too. It's a neck and neck between the two of them for my favorite slasher of all time. But I got to throw Insidious in the top 5 still to this day. However, they call him the lipstick demon. I know that doesn't really sound terribly intimidating or horrifying, but the design on that is just creepy. The soundtrack, I don't know the name of the guy that sang that song, Drops on Daisies or Drops on Tulips. God, he's a creepy looking, skinny, anorexic looking dude. I'll figure it out later and come back to it. But Insidious is the first James Wan film that I knowingly saw. I saw actually without knowing who he was. But when I saw Insidious in 2008, around when it came out, I just fell in love, man. Everything this guy has done, I've eaten up with a spoon, even his non-horrors. But Insidious, once again, creates a universe that has now spawned off into 4 or 5 different movies. And it's just the commercial success of it, while it's starting as an independent film, just goes to show how brilliant of a director Wan is. And I've told you guys a million times why I love his work. Insidious is no different than The Conjuring, except one is set 30 years before the other. Just masterful. Just masterful.
Yeah, I didn't really see Insidious till I was like 27 or so, and it just really didn't scare me as much.
I see what you did there, Gary. I see what you did there.
Yeah. But I did watch it with you, and you jumped multiple times, so that's a lie. I sat next to you when we watched it, so no. But even to this day, I've seen it a dozen or so times, and it's still I know when everything's coming. Still gets me. Okay, so we've all got our personal top 5 list. Maybe some of these are a bit of a reach because we each kind of took 1 or 2 from the others, and that's going to happen. That's fine. Let's see if we can do it. Let's see if we can agree on a Mount Rushmore +1. Now, remember, I want to preface it by saying this. This is the best overall horror movie of all time. Horror movie. Okay? Horror movie. I just want to plant that
Nobody's
seed
going
before
for
we
your
go
James
deep in.
Wan movies, Johnny, okay?
Horror
Get
movie.
that James Wan
Okay?
crap out.
Yeah. We can just take those straight off the top, right?
I mean,
No,
Gary and I can agree it is 2-1, so.
Yeah.
Neil, have you
Goodbye,
seen
Conjuring. Goodbye, Insidious.
Have you guys seen any of his? Actually, Neil, have you seen Insidious or The Conjuring?
I saw The Conjuring. I have not seen Insidious.
Gotcha. Okay, so if we feel like throwing other classics on there that are not on there, like nobody said The Exorcist. I was surprised, Gary. You had talked about it earlier. You were kind of panning me for ragging on it, so I was surprised you didn't say it. If you guys want to throw another one on there that's not on the list, that's fine. But let's jump out there. Let's each throw maybe we feel like our strongest one out. I'm going to start because I feel like this one is just going to be on everybody's list. I'm going to throw The Shining out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay, I don't think we don't need to debate this at all. Kubrick's one of his best films. It's an instant classic. Everybody and their brother has heard of it. Even though it's a psych thriller, there's still enough horror in there to get you, to make you jump, all that. So Shining, you're in. Congratulations, you made it. Neil, why don't you throw one out to us? And it can be from your own list or somebody else's.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and throw out Psycho. Psycho definitely deserves to be in the top 5, I think.
Yes, I can agree to that.
Unfortunately, I can't argue with you. It was on my
put
own
it
list.
out there.
That's why I said I can't
God
argue
damn it,
with you.
Johnny.
Well, you know
I
me.
lost so much respect for you.
No! Well, I normally like to play devil's advocate. Anyways, okay, Psycho's in. We're talking about trailblazers here. These two definitely are up there. Gary, why don't you go ahead and throw one out to us?
I'm gonna throw out Alien.
Okay.
Okay, some disagreement.
Can you convince me really quick, or just, you don't have to convince me, just like give me a couple positive bullet points?
Sure,
like, why should I pick?
Like Alien, I think, has everything that a good horror movie has. You've got this this unknown creature that's trying to kill you, and it's just animalistic, and it can't be reasoned with, it can't be understood. That sounds like the Terminator.
It's got you confined on a spaceship. You got a limited number of people.
You got all these tight shots of people like squeezing through like steam pipes and everything, and like just like this like dripping, snarling monster that just like its blood is like acid. And an alien burst out of your chest, so that's pretty good.
It falls under creepy crawly things.
Mm-hmm.
It does fall under creepy crawly things.
What movie was that? Was that a Mel Brooks movie where they got
Spaceballs?
Spaceballs? Not again.
Hello, my baby. Hello,
Hello,
my
soup
baby.
with a special.
Soup.
Soup. Okay.
Check,
Alien.
please.
Neil, what do you think, Neil?
I absolutely love Alien. It is a great movie. I'm just trying to think if it's Mount Rushmore.
For horror, if you told me, Gary, if you said throw a... It's almost as much horror as it is sci-fi. It's almost even. Part of me is just, it's kind of like if you tried to throw Silence of the Lambs up there, I would say no, because that is, in my opinion, a straight up psychological thriller. It's got horror elements to it. But Psycho started it all, and Psycho made people jump back then. When I saw it, let me put it this way: when I saw Silence of the Lambs, there was not really any part that I didn't jump really. I don't know. Psycho, granted, same thing. I saw Psycho when I was a lot younger. Oh God.
Okay, so yay or nay?
I'm
gonna have to say nay. I'm gonna say no on Alien.
I'm gonna say
much as I like
nay. As much as I love it, I'm gonna say nay for horror.
Okay.
It's a good.
To hell with you guys then.
You lost my respect.
This program.
Son of a bitch. I don't know. Unless it's. I don't know. It's a good pick, Gary. It really is. I'm not just saying that. It really is a good pick. It's tough to, because it's just a classic piece of cinema in general. Even if you can throw horror and sci-fi out the window, somebody threw up 100 best movies of all time. Alien and Aliens are going on that list easily. There's no debate on that. I just don't, for a horror, I don't know. I'd have a hard time putting it up there. You make a good point with Psycho, Silence of the Lambs and stuff, but with Psycho, I feel like I have to pay homage to the first, which I know Nosferatu and the original Wolfman and the original Bride of Frankenstein. Those were all pre Psycho, but Psycho was the first one that my parents talked about it. My grandparents talked about it. I saw it as like a 13, 14-year-old, jumped out of my skin. Silence of the Lambs, I saw 17, 18, still pretty young. It was a great fucking film. Alien, same thing, but I don't know. Just didn't scare me like Psycho did. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So, Johnny, which of the 2 James Wan movies do you want to put up? You only get one.
Well, honestly, I mean, but between all 3, the Conjuring is the only one that you guys have seen. Neil hasn't seen Insidious. So I can't really throw Insidious up there because there's no to make an argument to Neil about that would be he'd be like, I don't have any frame of reference. I haven't seen it. I'll throw The Conjuring up there because I think it. I mean, just between Hyde and Clapp, between Bathsheba and the fact that they didn't use a ton of CGI, even in a movie that came out in 2013, 2014, whenever it was, when she was flying around the room. When her face changes, all strings, all puppetry. It's like the Babadook. I always talk about the Babadook as being a really well done movie because it doesn't use any CGI. It's stop motion animation, cutouts, and puppetry. That's what they use. I love that kind of stuff. It pays homage to the classics. It's got, I mean, Vera Farmiga, Ron Livingston, fucking Patrick Wilson. It's got an all-star cast. It was so successful, that first one, that they spawned 8 additional movies off of it. So it was started as an indie and went. So I throw The Conjuring up there. To this day, it still sends chills up the back of my spine. I don't know.
Whenever I try and think of Patrick
Wilson.
Nope. I almost say Warburton. And
Yeah,
like,
that putty?
Yeah. It's like, that'd be a much different movie. Oh, jeez. We can't mess with this. I don't know what the hell impression that was. But
Hey, there's a ghost over here.
You sure?
You stole my Jesus fish.
So The Conjuring to you 2.
Yeah. If it'll shut Johnny up, I'm fine with it.
No, if you don't agree with me, like, are you like argue?
No,
Say no.
The Conjuring, I think, is especially for modern horror films. I think it does a really good job of keeping you in suspense. It does an excellent job of like building a backstory that's based on some historical but also some dramatized work on that. I think that they also do a really good job of showing restraint by not just going crazy and having way too much CGI, and they really keep the demons and whatnot and the evil spirits subdued, which I think helps make them scarier.
Yeah, and especially, I don't know if you guys remember that one scene where the girls are in their bedroom, and the one sister wakes up, and then she's talking to nobody. She's talking to the corner of the room, and the other sister turns the light on, and there's one corner that's pitch black. It's behind the door, and the sister like walks up to it. She goes, "Look, there's nobody here." And she's like, "Why does it smell like rotting meat?" And then it does a slow zoom in with that really high pitched string on the sister's face, the other sister's face, and then the door. And
Johnny, I'm like living here alone right now. You don't need to be like saying these kind of things, okay? I got to go to bed in a little bit.
Well, we could talk about The Strangers and Home Invasion. That might make you feel
God. Or The Visit. No.
That one wasn't really. No. Come play hide and seek with me. I'm gonna get you. I don't know. So Neil, it's up to you. You say yay or nay. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with Gary. If it'll shut you up, we'll put it up there.
Hey, it's okay. If you guys throw that one out, I don't have any other James ones to pick. If you don't honestly think it belongs up there, then say so.
No, it's a good one, especially for modern day. I say yay.
Alrighty. Okay. Well, The Conjuring is up there, and I have officially shut up about James Wan for this one episode.
Thank God. You're welcome, audience. We took that hit for you.
If we get him on at any point, if that ever happens in the next couple of years, which I would absolutely die if we did, then you guys are just going to be like, you're going to be erasing these episodes because you don't want him to hear you talk bad about him. He's a big Hollywood director.
Why?
Well,
We're bringing John Lovitz on here and we talk shit about him.
Do we? I don't remember talking shit about John Lovitz.
Marge, Tom's love for you is
large. Barge?
Well, in the movie, he was like thinking of what rhymes with Marge.
Okay. Gary, we'll loop back around. We'll go. Let's switch it up. Gary, go ahead. You're up next. So we got so far The Shining, Psycho, and The Conjuring are on our Mount Rushmore +1. We got 2 spots left.
All right. I'm going to throw out an American Werewolf in London. I think,
that's a good one.
We don't really have, I think, any others that are like a, well, because Alien was not picked, but there's like no other like monster movie kind of ones. And like, it's got a werewolf in it. And, I think, it's just, it's a pretty terrifying show because it's about a young man and like struggling, just on the surface level is him turning into a werewolf and like struggling how to deal with that. But, you can read deeper into it if you want, like struggling against his like primal nature. And plus the soundtrack is great. It's got comedy in it, but it's still a pretty scary movie. And, I think that came together really nicely.
So let me ask you a question, Gary, before we come to our verdict here, or give our verdict. Do you consider An American Werewolf in London to be a better movie than, let's talk about other classics, Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th, any of those? I guess even Sixth Sense you could kind of throw in there. Any of those. Would you say that American Werewolf in London is better than those?
Like a better movie?
A better horror movie.
Yes, I think it's like you like Friday the 13th does a lot of like like people laying on their bed and suddenly like there's giant holes in them as they die in their dream.
Or even The Evil Dead.
I mean, The Evil Dead I think is a really great movie. And if nobody brings it up, that's going to be my next one that I throw out there.
You shouldn't have told Neil. I was going to take it.
I think Neil's going either Event Horizon or Misery, but we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
But you do consider An American Werewolf in London, which is a really good film, to be better than The Evil Dead?
I don't know if I'd say it's better than The Evil Dead. It's kind of ironic. They came out the same year, I believe.
Okay. So why aren't you picking The Evil Dead then? I'm just curious.
Because I haven't gotten there yet on my list.
Okay. I'm disappointed in you, Gary. I'm disappointed in you, Gary.
Let's get rid of The Conjuring. I changed my vote.
It's too late. It's too late, Gary. It's right here. No James Wan.
No James Wan for you.
No James. You cannot get into bed with him. Okay. An American Werewolf in London. I didn't even anticipate you guys putting that on your personal top 5. It's a good one. I'm gonna have to say no. Honestly, I think there's better options. I know there's better options. It's not like it's not a good movie. As far as if we're talking straight up werewolf movies, I think that one's a little behind The Howling for me. I thought The Howling was a little better. Just overall production value, storyline. I mean, I thought the transformation, as you stated, in American Werewolf in London was probably the best it's ever been. But as far as all the aspects, I don't think I could agree with that. It's up there as a top 5. But if you want to change my mind, I'm more than happy to listen to arguments. But I'd love to hear what Neil has to say too.
It's a good movie. I don't think it's Mount Rushmore. I feel like there are better options out there.
Okay. All right. I see how it is.
It's all right, Gary. You've lost my respect, so.
Excellent.
Gary has
excellent.
Okay. Neil, your next pick.
My next pick would be one from my top 5, and I'm going to say 28 Days Later.
Okay.
How dare you?
How dare you? Was that going to be your next pick? You're going to skip The Evil Dead and go with one of Neil's selections?
No, because I said Event Horizon or
Misery.
Misery.
Like I said, Event Horizon's one of my all-time favorite films, but I don't think it's Mount Rushmore horror for the audience as a whole. It's more of a personal enjoyment and more of a cult following, I would say, than mass appeal.
Right.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. I love to give every subgenre of horror recognition kind of on this list kind of thing. God, as far as zombie movies go, I'd say 28 Days Later is probably the best overall one as far as horror. I know you guys want to say Shaun of the Dead. It's comedy horror. But as far as just straight up horror, like drama horror, yeah, I would say that it's a little better. God, dude. But I do like Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder remake, a lot. But I would say that 28 Days Later is better. Gary, what do you think? Does that make it to top 5?
I don't like the fast rage zombies as much as I do like just this slow, unending horde of zombies.
Mm-hmm.
And 28 Days Later was kind of the movie that popularized that, but it was such a good and well-made movie because it's just about like this. Not even family. This group of people struggle to
ragtag.
Try and survive in this. I guess it was just England at the time that had been overrun by these zombies, and like it had so many classic shots in it. Like when they're in the subway and you see the shadows of the zombie horde on the wall as they're running around the turn. God. 28 Days Later does have a lot of jumpy kind of scares though, but it's
zombie
also really,
film, so
yeah, it's also a really cool movie. I'd be fine with it.
I'm looking at our list and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, can I rightfully? Yeah. Sidebar really quick for you guys. I feel kind of bad that we're not giving any respect really to the slasher films at all. And I don't know, are we just like collectively, are we not really into the slasher genre? Like we're not paying any to any of the ones we mentioned. We're not giving homage to Candyman or Scream or The Thing or House on Haunted Hill or the Halloween franchise or the Freddy Krueger Nightmare on Elm Street. We're not bringing up any of those. I guess we talked about Evil Dead, but are we doing that because the others are slashers and they're just entertaining films and I'm letting my nostalgia get the best of me? Or
I think so, because I think a lot of the slashers are just mass appeal, mass produced, like Scream 1, 2, 3, 18 or whatever, all just copy paste formula from the previous one. Not that it doesn't work and it's not good, but most of these other films that we're putting on the Mount Rushmore are single films that did it right.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I really didn't start watching slashers till I was like 26, 27. So I never really got into them.
Really seriously, when did you start watching them? You were pretty young, right? I mean, you and Tom used to watch them all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like I watched like Nightmare on Elm Street when I was a little kid, like 5, 6, 7, 8.
No way.
But like I would say that Psycho, even though it's really only got like it doesn't have as much gore, like it is a slasher film because like he kills people with a knife.
He's a serial killer.
Yeah,
essentially. Essentially he is. Okay. I feel like we should. We paid homage to The Conjuring with kind of the demonic and supernatural subgenre. We paid attention to isolation and mind playing tricks on you films with The Shining, and then we paid homage to slasher psych thrillers with Psycho. So we'll pay homage. The zombie run, even though it was really thrown in our face and went for probably a couple years too long, it was a fun ride.
Yeah, it was a fun.
It was a fun decade. It was. It was a fun 10 years.
Hey, Coral.
Hey, Coral. It's even still around. We're joking about Walking Dead, but it's still around to this day. Okay, I'll throw it on my. It's definitely probably the best zombie movie I've ever seen. And you're right, man. Between Cillian Murphy and Brendan Gleeson, the two of them just they just carried that film. It was perfectly cast. Okay, yeah, I'll throw 28 Days Later up there.
Okay, now we have 4, so only one left.
Okay,
Be
so
wise.
Up to me, or well, if you say no, then not up to me. So out of the ones that we've got on here, I'm gonna throw The Thing out there. I as much as I love the first Halloween, as much as it does pain me to say that. I'm gonna have to say The Thing, because what I loved with The Thing is, even though there was a sequel and I think a prequel made as well, I kind of wish Ian was here, he would know. But from that, The Thing stood the test of time on its own. I can't think of another suspense thriller / horror movie that is based around a creature that I've ever found more terrifying and well done than The Thing. I still, to this day, I don't know if Keith David was The Thing, or if Kurt Russell was The Thing, or if The Thing was blown up. I don't know. I have no idea, because he masked it so well. It's kind of like those guys on the street corner that have the ping pong ball with the 3 cups, and they continuously like move it around, and they're trying to trick. They let you win a couple, and then on the 4th or 5th one, when you bet $100, they finally they pull the wool over your eyes, and they finally bamboozle you. And I felt like Carpenter did a perfect job of doing that in this one. So I would
bamboozled us.
I feel like I should throw The Thing in there. So I'm going to throw that in there for my 5th pick. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Gary?
I don't think I can go with The Thing. I mean, it is a creepy movie, and they do a really good job of like, because when was The Thing made? It was like, was that the 70s?
82.
82. Okay. Like it's really like the makeups, and like it's just really creepy and icky looking. I just, and it is a horror to behold. Like
it is. It's a straight up horror movie. There's no getting around that.
But I don't think I can go with that for Rushmore.
Okay. All right. Neil, just your thoughts in general.
That's a good film. No doubt about it. I don't know if it's Rushmore level
worthy. Okay. All right. I would respectfully disagree, but we have to all agree. So, Thing is off the table. Let's loop back around. Gary, what is your next pick?
Okay. I don't think I can convince you guys on the Blair Witch Project.
Hell no. Nope. And I know you're fucking with me right now, but I'm so mad at you for picking that.
Because Johnny, you were like over 28 when you saw it the first time, so that takes the magic away from any movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was 26.
So, you do your best. So I'm going to put out there The Evil Dead. Now this is a classic movie that's just made on a shoestring budget. It's great because it's basically a couple of friends, like in real life friends, that they hop in Sam Raimi's Delta 88, which is the giant car that they have, and has actually been in a number of movies. Like it was Uncle Ben's car in the Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. I think it's been in almost every Sam Raimi movie. And they go out to this cabin in the woods, and like this is just this rundown hunk of shit cabin, and they've got like just a couple of they don't have a lot of money to make this film, and they go out there and just in the woods of Michigan they create this film that becomes this cult classic. And I think that's one of the things that not only is it a great horror movie, but it's a great inspirational story, the in real life story of it. And I don't think that we could in good conscience take such a great story and not put that on the Mount Rushmore. So stand with me, people, and say, yes, we believe in the dreams of filmmakers, because a vote no is a vote to dash those dreams. Thank you.
I vote no.
Yeah.
God damn it. God damn it.
So I love Evil Dead. I love Bruce Campbell, and Bruce Campbell is the best B-list actor out there. But I don't know. I just can't throw a cult classic. It's the same reason I didn't put Event Horizon up, because I don't think it's Mount Rushmore.
I wish I had been able to see Evil Dead in its entirety when it was released in theaters. I really wish I had been there when that had happened. Like been old enough to actually I wish it, I was born decades ago and was able to see it when it first came out at the age of, 18, 19, or maybe 28, Honestly, Gary, I would say yes. I would actually agree with Evil Dead. But I wouldn't. I'm not completely dissatisfied that Neil said no, because it's kind of one of those on the edge border ones that could fall either way. I do feel like the first couple times that I saw it, like seeing it recently with my sister again, that was one of the ones that we've watched. I just saw it last week again. Obviously not as scary as it used to be, but there are still scenes that creep me out. And if there's a movie that I've seen multiple times and the scenes are still creeping me out at my current age, where I'm not a child anymore, I think that does a good, I think that just lends to the brilliance of that director and that cast and that crew, that team of people. And the fact that you talked about it was a low budget movie. You know, I mean, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, yeah, they were high school friends. They just happened to be lucky enough to meet or college, one of the two. But they lived in the same area of Michigan, like you said, and just very lucky to have that happen to them and make something that stood the test of time. And to this day, people still quote it and dress up like those characters. And it spawned another 2 movies and then an entire TV series.
That's and the musical.
Cool. And a musical. I would agree with you that I would throw that on the top 10, but I'm certainly not upset with Neil for saying no to that. There's other ones that we could throw up there, I think. So unfortunately, Gary has yet to get a movie on the Mount Rushmore +1.
Nope. I'm getting fucked over this time, people.
Collusion.
Not throwing up bad ones. They're all solid. Okay. Well, Neil, I'm gonna run back to you.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
What would you like to throw up there? What do you think's gonna stick?
I think a good modern slasher needs to be represented on here, and I'm going to say Scream. I think Ghostface Killer is one of the most iconic, bad guys out there in horror films. And I think the first Scream was very well done, very well received, and I think it has stood the test of time.
Wes Craven has hung his hat on Nightmare on Elm Street and the Scream franchises, and it has made him a household name. And I actually like Scream 2 more than Scream 1, just from an entertainment value. But I do love the first one. You can never not love the first one.
I mean, it gave us the simple rules, like no sex, don't drink, no drugs, and I'll be right back.
And don't be a teenager.
That's pretty much how I live my life, so it's great.
I do think it's important to represent the slashers on this list for sure. It's between, because my next one that I was going to recommend is also a slasher, because I feel that we have to represent it at some point. Gary, I know you're not as big of a fan of the slasher subgenre, so what do you think? Well, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still processing.
I do think it does need to be represented on the list. But I tell you what, Neil, how would you feel about trading Scream for Friday the 13th? Not only did it have a great video game, but it's like in the woods, a bunch of teenagers. Like it's where Scream gets its inspiration for like how to, a lot of the rules that they use.
Okay, but then I'm going to counterpoint, and I'm going to say, I guarantee you we can get Jonny to meet us halfway if we change from Scream to Halloween.
Amen. You would be able to convince me on that one. You'd be able to convince me more on Halloween, because Friday the 13th,
Friday the 13th is a good movie.
It stole a bunch of content from Halloween.
I don't think Friday the 13th is as good as the second one, because I think everybody expects or when you think Friday the 13th, you think Jason.
Yes, yeah.
And the original Friday the 13th isn't Jason.
It's just his mother.
I could be swayed for Halloween. I mean, it's the name of the fucking holiday we're about to have.
I mean, Mike Myers really stepped out of his comfort zone, getting away from the helmet.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
I thought William Shatner did a pretty good job, lending his face mask to letting that be created. Yeah, I do.
He's gone to space, man. Back off of William Shatner.
You don't talk about James Tiberius Kirk like that, bitch. for those of you that don't know, the mask in the Halloween franchise was actually a mold of William Shatner's face, and the guy who picked it out spray painted the face white, darkened the hair, and then shaved off the eyebrows and the sideburns, and that is what the mask currently and still is for the Halloween franchise. They just came out with another one that was connected to the most recent one from a couple years ago, which was very good.
And if you put a red wig on it, it's Mariah Carey. So
boom, boom, it's versatile.
Then you can sing all of the fucking Christmas songs you want. So it just drives you right into the next holidays.
It's a good segue. That's my only thing with Friday the 13th is exactly what Neil brought up, that their iconic antagonist was not in the first one until I guess at the end you could say he was, when he jumps out of the river and pulls her in. But Halloween was the beginning. Halloween was the beginning of the actual what we consider to be a slasher film. If you look at Friday the 13th, came out very shortly after Halloween, is about a year after, maybe 18 months, and it borrowed, as many movies and stories and artists do, it borrowed a lot from the Halloween series. So just because of Halloween and how much it's just so eerie to this day, even though Scream is up there for me, Halloween and Scream are just so close with each other. You'd get me at Halloween. You could get me at Halloween. I don't know if I could put it over Scream though. Excuse me. I don't know if I could put Scream over Halloween though. Personally.
Well, I think we're all good on Halloween.
Oh, you're good at
I'm good with I wanted to represent slasher, and I think Scream is a very strong one, but I'm also right there with Halloween. So if all three of us say Halloween, we got number 5.
Okay. All right.
Okay. On 3, say what your pick is.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Oh shit! Way off. I'll go with Neil. If you're switching up to Halloween, then I'll agree to that one.
Yeah.
All right, I will agree to that as well.
Okay. All right.
We have our slashers, ladies and gentlemen.
We have our slashers. We have the majority of genres currently represented here. Our Mount Rushmore +1 of the greatest horror films of all time. You've got Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, James Wan's The Conjuring, Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later, and John Carpenter's Halloween, the original. That is our Mount Rushmore +1, and I think that's a pretty good list. I am satisfied with this list for now. Okay. Wait until next year when we come back with the same episode, but talking about it a year later, then we'll see what happens.
Maybe I'll actually get a pickup there. Who knows?
House dark and alone. Are you about to go to bed? Like,
you know what? Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. How's that backyard looking? Looking a little scary? Looking a little.
You know what? I don't go back there anymore. I let nature have that.
Oh God! Where do you smoke? You smoke in the house now?
Out front on the porch. It's fine. I can see the neighborhood.
God knows that's a neighborhood you want to be sitting out front smoking. Cool. So I don't care, you can edit this out or not. Where are we at on time right now, Gary?
We are at 1:32.
Okay. All right. I think we're gonna skip, and we'll save this for later in the year, beginning of next year. We were going to talk about scariest films of all time too, but we're getting here pretty long in the tooth, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up for this week, since it is our final episode of the month, and we're trying to get these to you guys before Halloween actually pops up, so you have enough time to listen to both of our episodes. So really quick, I do want to go ahead and let everybody give their pick for the week for everybody to check out. Maybe a movie that we didn't mention, maybe a movie that you would personally find to just be a really scary film, even if you don't think it's one of the best. Maybe just a really scary movie, or another horror movie you had seen recently that you want people to check out. I'm going to go ahead and start this week, because I know I normally let our guests go first, but I do have 2 that I wanted to mention really quick. I had talked about a million times over. I've talked about the Babadook. I mentioned just it's one of the better horror films to come out, under $3 million on the budget, really low budget. Not a lot of star power, but the fact that they were able to create the monster with a guy in it, an actual guy in a trench coat, a cardboard cutout, and claymation puppetry, like stop motion, and then puppetry, no CGI, is so unbelievably impressive to me that you have to just marvel at the feats. In fact, it's the only movie I've ever seen that bases the storyline of the horror genre around a children's book. And that is what makes it so damn creepy. This family, the father has died. It's a single mother with a child who's really kind of weird. He's an eccentric, awkward kid. And one day they find this book called the Mr. Babadook. And Mr. Babadook, it's a pop-up book, and it talks about, it's told in poem form almost, where they come in and it tells the story about how the Babadook meets you and then how he grows more powerful and more powerful. And then every time they cut the book up and try to throw it away or burn it, it comes back brand new, but there's more pages added to it. And every single time there's another page added to it, the actual monster grows stronger and stronger. So I really like the progression of the building up of the antagonist in the story. It's brilliantly done for such a small budget. That would be my first one to recommend. My second one is going to be a movie called The Descent. And that is another post 2000. I think it was 2006. That's just in general one of the scariest movies I've ever fucking seen. A group of girls goes cave diving and they come into a cavern that's never been discovered before, only to find out they are not alone. There are these creatures that have evolved to where they're basically bat people, and they're basically skinless humans, and they find you, and they're cannibals, and they eat you by echolocation. The script's not amazing, but it's just so it's just scary. It's just in general a scary movie, and I would recommend for that one if you're looking for a good jump scare for this Halloween, All Hallows Eve holiday. Neil, let's go to you. What are you going to recommend for our viewers this week?
I'm going to go ahead and recommend one that we didn't really talk about, and it's in a subgenre we really didn't talk about. But I'm going to say Saw 2004. It kind of falls into that torture porn genre, but it's still a very good horror movie, and it spawned like 5 or 6 sequels.
That's gonna be one of the most successful horror franchises in history. Neil, do you know who directed that movie?
Not off the top of my head, no.
That would be James Wan.
Cameron. Oh, goddamn.
Nope, James Wan. Once again.
Well, look at
Once again.
I would agree, Neil. That's a wonderful film and a good pick. Gary, let's see if you can do better than Blair Witch Project.
Okay. So The Evil Dead, of course, is a classic. And I would recommend it. But for my picks, I'm going to do 2 of them, and they're both animated. So one of them is a anime that I remember seeing on the Sci-Fi Channel many years ago when they used to do Saturday anime. It's called Lily Cat, and basically it's just a Japanese ripoff of Alien, because it's a group of people that are on this spaceship that are deep in space, and like this... the spaceship collects a sample of bacteria that starts to like eat through everybody and like transform. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but starts to transform into a monster. And they've got to like try and destroy this monster in the middle of space. So it's basically Alien, but it was a very interesting movie. And then the second one I want to recommend is The Last Unicorn. Which is a classic animated, which is a scary movie. Like there's like, it's about a wizard that meets up with this last unicorn and trying to undo a curse that she's under. And there's this like evil Red Bull of heaven that is just kind of scary when you're a kid. Probably not scary, when you're a 26-year-old man like Jonny was many years ago, but it's still a good movie. So yeah, those would be my 2 recommendations.
Did you always find that weird that when they were in the part in Last Unicorn, when they're at the traveling circus and they
God.
Okay, so the condor giant bird has like
the
3
harpy?
The harpy has like 3 tits or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just how strange. It's just weird for a kids movie. I was like, why?
Yeah, I don't know if I would show this to like anybody like under like 12.
It's on the edge of like a Dark Crystal kind of, where it's a kids movie, but it's not a kids movie.
Okay, my air conditioner just came on and it scared the crap out of me. So.
The click. Oh God, I love that. Oh man. All right, guys. Well, unfortunately, we are all out of time for this week. So thank you so much for joining us, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys next week. We are looking forward to jumping back into our breakdown of franchises, because here at the end of the year, we've got a lot of old blockbusters that are going to be rising from the dead like a beautiful phoenix, and we're going to break down some of those franchises. So tune in next week to see which ones we break down and which guests we have on. So for all of us here at I Don't Give a Flick, I'm Johnny.
I'm Gary.
I'm Neil, and I'm calling from inside the house.
Oh, Jesus!
7 days. Have a good one, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Leadfeather Productions' podcast of I Don't Give a Flick. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so that you never miss an episode. Podcasts are available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are hosted. I Don't Give a Flick is hosted and produced by Johnny Blackburn, Gary Elmore, and Neil Riley. Executive producer, Johnny Blackburn. Technical director, editor, and audio mixer, Gary Elmore. I Don't Give a Flick is a Leadfeather production. Copyright Leadfeather Productions 2021.